Good afternoon and welcome to today's lunch break with the Rabbi. Today is Monday, April 12th, 2021. Today we continue our discussion, an interesting discussion, of course, in the book of Leviticus. However, just a quick reminder and a little commercial break here is that our JLI course titled It Can Happen, talking about the time of the coming of Mashiach and the experiences before and during, we will discuss in a 6-week course starting April 27th. Now is your time to register online at jewishally.com to join us for this fascinating course. You can do it in person or on Zoom. Hopefully you'll join us for this wonderful course. Story told about after World War I, there was this wealthy Lithuanian Jew who lost everything to the Bolsheviks, took everything away that he had. And he was still content and happy looking at his 2 daughters as they were married to great Torah scholars. And he said, this is my pride and joy, something that the Bolsheviks can't take away from me. They once asked a great scholar of the yeshiva, where these 2 students came from, how was it that this wealthy individual, a person who was accustomed to great wealth and enjoyed an abundant, beautiful life, merited that his daughters should be married to such great Torah scholars who maybe haven't lived the life of luxury, especially after all this money was taken away. How did they become accustomed to it? What was their education that brought them to want it and appreciate it? Rabbi Elchanan Wasserman, who was the rabbi at the time, told him, he says, I'll tell you why. He says, I was a fundraiser. I had to go around, collect money for the yeshiva. And when I came to this fellow's house, it was a stormy, snowy day. So I decided that I was going to use the side entrance and not go through the main door, go through the kitchen entrance. And as I knocked on the side door, the rich man, came to the side door and he started complaining to me. He says, why are you ruining the education of my children? So I looked at him in surprise. He says, what do you mean I'm ruining the education of your children? So he says, you have to understand. You see, I have 2 daughters. And these 2 daughters see me every single day involved in business, in money, and in the luxuries of life. The only time they see the respect and adherence that I have for Torah is when somebody comes and to collect money for a Torah institution, and the respect I give them and to be able to give them that respect. He says, if you come through the side door, that means to my daughters, I'm teaching them that the carpet and the rugs is more important than this Torah institution. He says, dear Rabbi, please walk around to the front door, walk through with your dirty boots on the front door so I can show my daughters what it means to respect the rabbi. Rabbi Wasserman says, after hearing this, I well understood how his daughters were so interested and keen on marrying only great Torah scholars. The respect that the father gave to Torah scholars and to Torah institutions had a ripple effect into his children. We read in this week's Torah reading about the laws of purity and impurity. We read about the laws of who is obligated to bring a korban, a sacrifice, after a certain event in their life. We read about the laws pertaining leprosy, as we'll discuss in the next few days. But in the beginning of the Torah reading, it tells us about the law, a woman who gives birth. And after a woman gives birth, she has an obligation to bring a sacrifice, a sin offering. What sin did she do wrong? She brought a new life into the world. Why does she have to bring a sacrifice? So in the simple meaning, and the commentators explain, is because that every woman sitting on the labor chair while she's in pain and suffering, she promises she'll never do it again. But the moment they have birth, they said, when can I have the next one? So because of the regret and the things that they said while they were in pain, they have to bring a sin offering because they may have said things that they unwantedly said. But looking at it in a deeper way, as the Torah goes on to tell us in the laws of purity and impurity, we know that one of the basic tenets of Jewish life is that a woman during a menstrual period, she's considered impure, and only after immersing in a mikveh does she become pure. And only then can she resume relations to her husband and so on. The same idea is also true. A woman after giving birth, being that a lot of blood comes out of her body, she then is considered impure, and only a certain amount of time can she then go to the mikveh and she becomes pure. And the question again is, why does a natural event in a woman's body change her status of purity to impurity? So someone who explains simplistically the concept of every time the body goes through a change, it's because the body's ability to give birth and it loses that ability, so therefore there's impurity. Kabbalah looks at it from a whole different perspective. And taking us back to the time of when Eve gave birth, when Adam and Eve sinned with the tree of knowledge. And the sin that Adam and Eve had with the tree of knowledge was a sin that because of that, the curse that was given to Eve was be'etzav tildi banim, that she will have pain when giving birth. And seemingly one can ask the question, what's the connection? She ate from the tree of knowledge. What does that have to do for generations to come? That they'll have to have childbearing pains. In fact, the commentators even say even more, that the pain that is caused, menstrual pains, and the concept of a menstrual period in a woman only came about because of the sin of the tree of knowledge. And what's the connection? And the connection is very clear. When the sin of the tree of knowledge occurred, why did Adam and Eve want to eat from the tree of knowledge? They believed that they were underprivileged. They believed, or the way at least the Nachash, the snake, convinced them was, that if you were to eat from the tree of knowledge, and in the words of the Torah, this is a craving pleasure for our eyes. They realize this is something I can enjoy. Why should I put myself down? Why should I diminish some type or deprive myself from some type of pleasure if I can have it? And in the words of the snake, and it can be like God, enjoy the luxuries of knowing bad and good and the difference in between. I want something, I should have it. There was no sense of humility, adherence, and listening. It was all because of ego. I want something, therefore I have to have it. Because of that came into the world a level of impurity. In the words of Kabbalah, it's called a zuhama, a sweat, so to speak, an impure revelation in this world that never existed. And that crept within the woman's body. And every single month, when a woman goes through her menstrual period and the blood cycles, the woman tries to remove, the body tries to remove that impurity that's in it. And it goes through that cycle of cycling the impurity that came in from the sin of the tree of knowledge. And eventually it goes and it has this cycle again and again. What is a mikveh? The word in Hebrew to immerse is tovel. If you mix the words around, comes the bittul, self-nullification. When a person immerses himself in water, there's nothing left of them. All their ego, all their greatness, so to speak, is now under the water. To be able to counter what Adam and Eve did by the sin of tree of knowledge, the woman today has to go through those childbearing pains, has that menstrual cycle to be able to bring about that level of humility, which came about from the sin of egotism. And every single time a woman gives birth, the sacrifice that she brings is an atonement for the sin of the tree of knowledge that happened at the beginning of creation. Every single episode in life that we have is not only an occurrence of once, but it's a reoccurrence. Meaning, when we talk about educating our children, the best education that we can have, The best education that we can give our children is when we educate ourselves. And teaching them that it's not out of ego, but out of humility. And this is told to a parent the moment they have a child. The moment they have a child, they're reminded that the reason why you are bringing a sacrifice, why you are considered impure, it was because your great-great-great-great-grandparents have succumbed to the sin of tree of knowledge because of an ego, because of a craving, because of something that they said, I want it, I should have it. The first level of education is telling us that not because I want it do I have to have it. Sometimes something literally looks good for my eyes, but it might be painful for my body. The first step in education is telling us to have humility, to recognize that we don't have all the answers, to be submerged in water which is Torah, recognizing that there's a knowledge beyond us. When we tell a child and we educate ourselves that way, that automatically is transparent and given over to the children, that they can see it, appreciate it, and value it. Not just for the wisdom that we share, but for the walk we walk, not just the talk we talk. And then we can be guaranteed to have pride, nachas, pleasure from our children. God bless you. Have a wonderful day, and may we all have nachas from all of our children, revealed nachas, seen nachas, and one that we can share with all. God bless you. Have a great day. Looking forward to sharing with you again some Torah thoughts tomorrow at lunch break with the Rabbi at 1 p.m. Have a wonderful day.